governor.
You are now watching Maine Wire TV with your host, Tom Shattuck, featuring Maine Wire Editor-in-Chief Steve Robinson and the indispensable John Featherston.
Seamus Othot joins us today. Steve Robinson, Editor-in-Chief of the Robinson Report. John Featherston, our reporter on the streets, as you can see. We'll have a whole bunch on that in just when you think it can't get any creepier. I do want to remind people about our debate. I can't give out too much information, but it is March 24th, 7 p.m. at the Cross Insurance Center in Bangor, Maine. We'll have more information as we get a little bit closer on that. I can tell you that there's some exciting content that's going to happen at the event that, like I said last night, would be illegal in Massachusetts. So I'd encourage people to go. Let's start right here. Poor Steve Robinson, just trying to, fish out and sniff out Medicaid fraud, has been put on blast by Janet Mills, who is convinced that Robinson was handed off some information from Mehmet Oz before it got to her. She asked for a delay in essentially an audit from Mehmet Oz. And Steve somehow, through some kind of prescience, knew about the delay, apparently before Janet Mills. That's the contention today, Steve. So she is pissed off at you.
She should set down the red wine and check her mailbox after 5 p.m. When you're governor, the workday doesn't end at 5 o'clock just because cocktail hours started. If she wasn't so busy campaigning for a Senate seat where she's down 45 points to the fake oyster farmer, then maybe she would have been able to check her inbox, because it's just a lie what she said. And shame on WGME for going out and reporting something like that without asking. I mean, there are tons of people at WGME who know who I am. I'm like very accessible, very easy to reach. They have my phone number. They could have gotten a hold of me and asked, what happened here. It's embarrassing that they can't just say Steve Robinson from the Maine Wire. Say my name, WGMA.
Matt, the WGME article and video wrap is there because I think that it's a good study in media, the way that their copy is written here, and how they exactly position the Maine Wire.
New at 6, the state says the Trump administration shared timely information that the state needed with a right-wing blogger first. In January, a federal audit.
A right-wing blogger.
$35 million for improper Medicaid payments for services provided to children with autism. On February 6th, Dr. Oz, who heads the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, gave the Mills administration 30 days to offer an explanation or be denied Medicaid money. The Mills administration was asked 33 questions. The administration was also given the opportunity to ask for an extension, which it says is routine. The Mills administration asked for that extension on February 19th and was denied. Republican lawmakers talked about that denial today.
This means that the Mills administration has no sufficient justification to delay. Federal officials cited urgency to protect taxpayer dollars, need to prevent delays in oversight, and serious concerns about program integrity.
But a spokesman for Governor Mills says the Trump administration, quote, sent its response letter denying that request to the media arm of the conservative Maine Policy Institute before sending it to the Mills administration, end quote.
It's a lie.
Arm of the Maine Policy Institute.
That's just a lie.
The statement continues the actions of the Trump administration in denying a routine request and in sharing that response with conservative media first are proof that the substance and merits of that response do not matter. Now, the Mills administration says it will respond to the Trump administration within that original 30-day time frame.
Okay, Steve, blogger Steve, right-wing blogger Steve Robinson. You're allowed to call, if you're a TV station, somebody a blogger, if you're not trumped by about that blogger producing 10 times the amount of content daily that you produce yourself.
Yeah, tap dance WGMA. I mean, these schlubs, nobody knows who nobody knows their names. They don't actually have journalists. They have union goons out there picketing to get paid more money for doing nothing. The entire time that I've been running the main wire, I can't think of a story that WGME has broken. I can't. I can name maybe one person who still works there. They're all hoping that they're pretty enough on camera that someone's going to see them and hire them to Nashville or some other bigger TV market. And I can guarantee you that Mainwire TV, which is like 4 weeks old at this point, is getting more views than any episode, any hour of late night or premium television, whatever, the primetime television. So terrible work on WGME's part to make the story the fact that I broke the story. You know what? We've broken tons of stories. We broke the Chinese marijuana story before the Mills administration, was able to talk about it. We broke the story about the Medicaid audit in the first place before she was able to talk about it. We broke the story about the 250 ballots ending up in an Amazon Prime package. We just happen to be really, really good at what we do. And the Governor Mills, just the only response she has is to try to, pick a fight with us or campaign against us. It's a pattern we're seeing with all the candidates, whether it's Shenna, Troy, or Janet Mills. They think that somehow, going to war with me or with the main wire is going to be beneficial to them politically. But my biggest problem here is with WGME, because it's just a lie. What Janet Mills said is not true. It's a lie. And she knows it's a lie. She should know it's a lie. If she would check her email, she would know that it was a lie. And it's a lie that she told after getting caught lying about going to the gubernatorial event at the White House. Just within like 72 hours of lying to the media and just getting, embarrassing the Bangor paper, getting caught lying, she's lying again. She's got a team of just amateur goons who have never had adversarial press in their life. Scott Ogden and Jeremy Kennedy. Who knows what the hell they'll do? This is the peak of their career right now. They're making $145,000, $150,000 as taxpayer Goombas who barely have to go to the State House and never have to work. This is the peak of their job right now, is lying to WGME about me. So I hope they enjoy it for another 4 or 5 months, because they're soon going to be tossed into the dustbin of history.
Yeah, and Seamus, what's interesting, I see a lot of WGME's crime coverage, and a lot of it looks a little bit like
that's the other thing. Thank you for bringing that up. They're content thieves in addition to union losers.
Well, but what I've also noticed is that Seamus makes phone calls and puts out FOAs so that essentially a 500-word piece on an arrest or somebody who works at a sheriff's department stealing a cruiser and pulling somebody over, they have is a 1,000-word piece by Seamus. So it's all different. These people are, this TV station, these are just simply rip and read hacks who they get a press release and the reporting ends right there. Maybe there's some cute cupcake will do a stand-up in front of a crime scene or something, but that is it. So there is no other news outfit in Maine that is so boisterous as the Maine Wire. There just simply is not.
Most recent example I can think of is every other outlet when Sanford put out that press release about busting the sex trafficking operation out of a spa. They just put out the address, and every other outlet is just like, all right, well, there it is, 90 words, we're done. Just that, no information, not doing any extra research until I saw after my article came out. I can't remember, it might have been WGME, it might have been somebody else, then went on and specified that this took place at a spa, and it was, and then they went into it after we broke that, and they did the same thing with the guy who pulled somebody over in York.
And there was about a 3-day delay, by the way, to catch up to your coverage.
Yeah, the York thing was only after the sheriff went to them for do damage control, so he could try to get out in front of it, or actually he got out behind it and gave them a partial story.
So, John, where are you? Are you out there blogging? Is that what you're doing out there?
Well, I wanted a couple points of clarity. Steve, you get called a lot of names. You're a bad actor. You're a blogger. You're a neo-Nazi. You're a fascist. If you had feelings, I think they might be hurt a little bit, because you're an award-winning journalist. And why are people calling you a blogger? You're not a blogger. Tom, you should be offended by that as the editor. I mean, we're not bloggers. There's nothing wrong with being a blogger, but we're not bloggers. But more importantly, why does it discount the message because it was sent to a conservative outlet? If it was sent to a liberal outlet, would it have been discredited? Like, what is Mills's point that, well, since it was sent to the main wire, it doesn't have any validity?
Hey,
No,
John,
it does have validity. You have 100% error rate on your autism billing. It's valid.
according to Mills, John, that's the media wing of the Maine Policy Institute. That's where it was sent out to. The Maine Wire doesn't get its own brand.
Then, it doesn't even get its own brand. But it doesn't stop the message. The message is, you're in a lot of trouble, Janet. It's still the message. You're in a lot of trouble.
I have no problem being called a blogger. They think it's an epithet, but they're actually giving away their own dinosaur antiquated understanding of the media. If it isn't printed out on a piece of dead tree, it's not actual journalism. I mean, yes, I understand the governor is an elderly woman, but the media has changed a little bit. And she probably doesn't even know what's going on here, to be honest. I mean, this is Governor Jeremy Kennedy, the same guy who threw a hissy fit at the White House at the last governor meeting and made a spectacle of the state of Maine. That's what this is. This is just incompetent staff. And everything that we're seeing, details of which have been reported exclusively by the Maine Wire, confirm what John was just saying, that the Mills administration is in a lot of trouble. January 10th, 2025, Aaron Fry sends out an email to DHHS staff saying, if somebody from the Department of Justice contacts you, don't talk to them. Talk to me first. That's a little weird. It's kind of like somebody who's got something to hide, someone who's trying to, cover things up and doesn't want any leaks coming out about activity at the Department of Health and Human Services. The Maine Wire obtains that email and reports on it exclusively. Later on, we learned about the House Oversight investigation, and we're the only outlet in the state that thought it was curious that the House Oversight Committee was investigating Maine's Medicaid program. So I filed a Freedom of Access Act request for emails related to their response to that inquiry. And we get an email from DHHS Commissioner Sarah Gagne Holmes saying, the goal here is to avoid a congressional subpoena. What a dummy. Just an amateur putting that in an email. It's so bad and incompetent. It's insulting to me to encounter something like that actually written out in an email. But it's sensational news because, again, it's evidence that they are covering something up. The Attorney General, the Commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services, and all of the leadership there, Ian Yaffe, they are conspiring to cover something up because they know that if the Department of Justice looks in the right places, they're going to find evidence of serious wrongdoing on the part of the Mills administration. That's why they asked for a delay. That's why they're trying to say, oh, this is political. Oh, they shared information with a blogger. They don't want you looking at the substance of this, which is serious malfeasance and mismanagement of the Medicaid program, and perhaps even criminal activity when it comes to pushing non-citizen Medicaid expenses onto the federal government. But it's gonna happen. It's coming out.
Well, and I think, I mean, is there not an impending feeling here that she can't escape to Washington, D.C. now? Like the prospects for that are done, right, John?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she hasn't turned in her papers. Her papers are due by the 16th, for her Senate run. Plattner is on the ballot, and I was up at Augusta yesterday watching the ballot process. It's a daunting process. I mean, it's old school. They're counting every single sheet. she's got to get her signatures in, and I wouldn't be shocked if she doesn't turn in her signatures. I really wouldn't be like, oh, something came up. I'm gonna spend more time with the grandkids and my husband, and I've just decided not to run. It might be an easy out for her, because can she handle the humiliating defeat of losing to the Oyster Man?
I think her husband's dead, for what it's worth, but she did turn in. She did turn in her financial disclosure, though. She initially asked for an extension on that, and she did file her Senate financial disclosure. So I doubt she would have gone through the rigmarole of filling out that document with the U.S. Senate clerk if she wasn't intending to run. Maybe she's having a challenge getting the signatures, but I do think that they'll run, and I think that they've got some tricks up their sleeves still for Graham Plattner, who, by the way, I can confirm the only reason why Graham Plattner right now is a Senate candidate is because he was paid to be an amateur actor in aquaculture videos. I have that confirmed, and I sent Graham Pollard, the good Graham, some links to those commercials that he did. So we'll have those for Mainwire TV yesterday. But some New York and California political consultants saw, the masculine ginger oyster man and decided, hey, let's make this guy a political candidate. So they saw him in a commercial, hunted him down, and installed political ideas into his head to invent a Manchurian Maine Senate candidate. So you can look forward to that tomorrow on Mainwire TV.
Well, I've been watching his social media feed, Steve, so I know for a fact that he was a peaceful oysterman in 2004 when he was forcibly impressed into the Marines by the senator, by Susan Collins, who then forcibly sent him against his will to Iraq to fight the corrupt foreign war built on lies, selected, not elected. So that's what I know about him. Who knows? Maybe it'll work.
Well, honestly,
go ahead.
I was just saying there's a lot of what Plattner has to say about the Bush-Obama foreign policy that I agree with, and that I think a lot of people sympathize with, and even a lot of veterans that I know do look back on the time that they served with some disillusionment, and they feel like they were over there fighting for the flag and a set of ideals that were a mirage. So that's one of the most effective things he has going for him. But his story before he, was, I guess, groomed by New York political consultants was always that he just really wanted to play soldier. He tells a version of the story which is like, yeah, I really wanted to shoot people, so I went and joined the military.
Well, right. But somebody else brought up a great point. Seamus, is that like from 2007 to 2025, what's been going on? Other than he drinks and goes on Reddit. I know that he's done that, but that's a long time. It's like there was no wife, family. There's no what's he been up to?
I have no idea what he's been doing, honestly, other than his oyster farm for his mom. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. Yeah, it is a strange. It is strange because how old is he?
I think he's in his early 40s. Well, according to the Twitch stream that he was a part of, he was a very high level, character in whatever the video game was. So I assume that he's a prodigious gamer. According to some of the "Are We Dating the Same Guy" Facebook pages, he's a big swiper on the dating apps. I haven't looked at those pages too closely, but I know that there are some pictures circulating where people are wondering if they matched with a future Senate candidate a few years ago. So he's just being a bachelor and hanging out on 100% disability.
All right, let's move over here to John Featherston. John, where are you and what are you up to?
I'm in the lovely city of Portland, 75 Bishop Street, and as my commitment to you earlier in the week when I was at Legit Home Healthcare, I was going to visit other home healthcare places that Steve and I have been to multiple times. So I came to 75 Bishop Street. And you can probably see here from the sign, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 home healthcare places, right? So what are my chances? What are my chances? I go to all 10 of them today. How many human beings did I see? 0. I'm 0 for 10. Like, how does this happen? But, Steve, I did end up running into the landlord's son, and I think we've got maybe some breaking news here, or maybe you already know this. Each one of these places that is a home health care place received a letter from the state last week marked confidential. And when I asked, well, was it from the governor? Was it from, the police? Or was it from DHHS? He said he thought that it was from DHHS, but I find it interesting that only the home health care places, because there are some other businesses in this complex that aren't, home health care, but each one of them got a letter marked confidential. So I wonder what's in that letter.
Well, I wonder if it's related to the earlier request that they got, because we know that right around the time we started putting out videos approaching some of these, $1 million home healthcare businesses that don't actually appear to be businesses, they received a letter asking them to turn over a copy of their lease, a list of their clients, and a list of their employees. So it looked like the Mills administration was scrambling to do some, basic good government and oversight, the kind of thing that they probably should have been doing all along. But it looks like they were scrambling to do it, particularly with some of the more egregious examples, like the co-location clusters at 75 Bishop and 68 Bishop. So I wonder if it was a different letter from that, or maybe it was a follow-up on that. Maybe they've had their Medicaid billing terminated, but I mean, at this point, the damage is done.
The landlord was saying that when you were out here with Rich McHugh, Steve, that one of the tenants who is a legitimate health care went to the landlord and said, "Hey, listen, we all know that I don't work here, but I do work from my home." And the landlord's like, "Are you committing fraud?" And he's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Prove it to me." And he flat out asked him if he's like committing fraud. But how can there be 10 places here and I don't run into anybody? And yeah, I think we even have video of it, right?
Yeah.
No? Play that video, Matt, of this is John searching in vain again to find human life in a place that should be bustling with businesses, according to the sign.
This is like my dating life in high school. I can't find anybody.
We should get some eerie music over this.
Yeah, I mean, so the guy who is saying, I work from home. Well, why do you have an office?
What exactly?
Yeah.
And I think it's hilarious that the landlord, well, are you guys like committing fraud?
So are people just walking into his man cave for service?
No.
Also, I have to love the folder with patient information just hanging out on the outside of the door.
Is that a HIPAA violation?
Yeah, I think it might be. As someone who's been accused recently of committing HIPAA violations, I think that's an actual HIPAA violation.
Now, I'm wondering, when they're all empty like this, what's the advantage of putting money transfer stations in the same building? I don't know if this building specifically has that, but some of them do. So if they're not even here, why do they need the station in the same building?
Well, I think that probably gets to the benefits accruing to the landlord who owns a given building. But in this specific building, there wasn't any money transmitter. That was at 203 Anderson in Portland, where there were the 5 Medicaid businesses in the money transmitter.
So what is? It appears if you were able to find nobody at all, it appears that there's nobody in that building at all. There's nobody in that building at all with any fear of pop-in inspections from the state. We know that they do the desk inspections or whatever.
I've been standing out here for, an hour now. Like, this is, and Steve knows, this is a pretty, popular, there's a bus transfer station right up here. This is a pretty popular street, and you probably heard the traffic driving by. Like, who's this old man standing on the side of the, talking to himself on the side of the street? Nobody's come by. Nobody's like said, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you here?" It's just, it goes back to that zombie thing again. It's like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Am I like really here? Like, how is this possible? But Steve will tell you, there's millions of dollars on this board here. Millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars have flowed into the businesses within a mile of where he's standing. Not just home healthcare agencies, but also within sight of where John is right now. There are two massive addiction treatment facilities, which, for all I know, could be really super great facilities that have helped thousands of people recover from substance use disorder, I'm sure. But it shows that this little area of Portland, tens of millions of dollars of the local economy there is all dependent on Medicaid. And at least at these locations that John's talking about, it's just vapor. The one guy we did encounter who talked with us, who looked like he was a full-time World of Warcraft player, hanging out in that office. He told us that the boss was back in Africa, in I think Uganda, on an extended vacation. No idea when he's coming back here. So what a great arrangement to be living somewhere where the cost of living is at Uganda levels, and you're making, I don't know, $1 million a year off your home healthcare business, and the state apparently doesn't even on a regular basis ask for a list of your employees and patients. It's remarkable.
And he had like 1 million. Hey, main wire shout out right there. He had like 1 million plastic bottles in his office too. Remember, Steve?
He did. Yes. So someone's going to teach him about the bottle deposit fee. Part of that is, though, that's how you can spot somebody who has come from a country where they don't trust the water. That's how you can tell someone who comes from a place where they don't trust the tap water. They're always buying cases of bottled water like that. But yeah, no, 75 Bishop Street is just a perfect example, perfect illustration of what Medicaid has become. And no one policing this. And as Seamus knows, because he's looked at some of the records related to these home healthcare businesses, the state is indicating on the professional licensure website that they've done site inspections. Yeah. There's a business in that building, 5 Stars Home Healthcare, where Mostafa Alamedi, the guy creates a healthcare business, makes off with $1 million. He got audited by the state and was found to have, I think it was like a 60 or 70% error rate in his billing while he's being audited, and can't supply any documents to show that his billing is legitimate. They continue to let him bill Medicaid. He gets another $400,000 through this process. They finally turn off the billing for him. And then there's a record for an on-site inspection that says no deficiencies. So after he's been audited for over a year, has BS'd his way through it, continued to bill, doesn't supply any documents to show that his funding is legit, gets his funding turned off. Finally, after that whole process, they do an on-site inspection, no deficiencies. Yep, and I think his plaque is still up on the office door.
It was there today. It was there today.
So what are we doing here? What are we doing? This is not a serious state, and Janet Mills wants to whine that the main wire is breaking stories too soon. What you want me to pause, Janet? Tell you what, you've got my phone number. Send me a text message, and I'll give you scoops. I'll give you a 5-minute head start on my scoops from now on.
So Seamus, it's March 4th, which means I assume these guys paid rent, and if they pay month to month a couple of days ago. the landlord would have told John if they were in the arrears or if he was evicting people. It looks like the grift just continues to cruise right along, unabated by anything in the news.
Yeah, it does seem like there's no, unless someone, I think the only thing that would make it stop is if they actually decided, all right, we just need to cut off Medicaid building in the state until we figure this out. I don't know if there's a more targeted approach that would get the job done at this point, because they just close up shop, open a new one, slightly different name, change one of the letters, change their middle name, and it seems like there's no guardrails to stop that happening. And I don't know if maybe they can build some in, but I don't see how they would do it without taking the drastic measure of just total cut to the state while we deal with this problem.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue to the feds, actually, because they brought up Tim Walz. Tim Walz was dragged up in front of a House committee today, or was it both houses? I'm not sure, but anyway, to talk about some of his fraud. Mostly it was the autism fraud. We've got some video of that, and wouldn't it be great to see Maine politicians have to, receive such scrutiny as Tim Walz was getting?
They wouldn't be able to answer any questions.
No, they wouldn't. No.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
On autism in Minnesota in 2017, Governor?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, Congresswoman.
Did you prepare for this hearing today? Did you do any
I
preparation
take
for this
Congress
hearing today?
seriously.
And you've seen the numbers about autism fraud in Minnesota. So we're going to do some Minnesota math with you today, okay? Are you ready? How much money was spent on 2017 for autism in Minnesota? How much?
I don't know. I wasn't the governor.
Okay. Did you not just say that you prepared for this hearing today? $1 million, okay? A quick Google search or using your AI could tell you $1 million was spent. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
Were you governor in 2024?
I was, but I'm not the
Okay,
head
so
of the
your
HHS.
excuse before that you didn't know what 2017 autism numbers were because you were not governor, and today you can't answer the numbers about 2024 as governor, and you still said you prepared for this hearing today. It's unbelievable. $343 million was spent in 2024. What percent increase is that from 1 million to 343 million? What percentage increase is that?
I'm not here to be your prop. Go ahead and tell me.
Are you governor of Minnesota or not?
Yes, I am. I'm not.
Well, when I'm
a prop
governor of
for a
South
member of
Carolina,
Congress.
you can sure as hell bet that I'm going to know the math. The math is 34,200% increase, an increase of 343 times what it was in this time period. Do you know the number of children in Minnesota?
I know that Minnesota ranked as a top 3 state for children in the last year.
What is the total population in Minnesota?
5.7 million.
Okay. What is the total population of children in Minnesota?
I don't have the number in front of me right now.
Are you governor of Minnesota?
I know 400,000 were cut out of health care last week by the actions you made.
Are you governor of Minnesota?
I am.
And you don't know the number of children
I
residing
don't have
in
the
Minnesota?
specific number.
Is that the guy doesn't have any answers? If Janet Mills was there, I assumed it would look very similar to that.
Or it'd be worse.
I thought
She'd certainly be twitchier.
I know a couple weeks ago we had a similar hearing on here, and I was kind of critical, thinking that the Republican side was making it a show. But I thought this time they did a great job, because she was giving him the opportunity to answer all the questions, and every single one of them he couldn't do it. Like I thought that she did a great job coming off as the rational one compared to him being the unreasonable one. I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, well, and the answers were on her chart too. He could have just deduced from the numbers in the chart the answers. But John, this guy's ass is in a sling. That's why he's out of politics in a few months. And
he is in a sling, and this is why I think maybe Mills is rethinking her Senate run, because Mills is next. I mean, Trump made it very obvious. California, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Maine. So if Janet Mills is a U.S. Senate candidate and she has to testify in front of Congress, and to Steve's point, she's up there twitching and in a wrinkled flannel shirt, her Senate campaign is over. So maybe she doesn't even want to get to that point, because she knows she's going to be in so much trouble. And, it's the only time in American history somebody's going to say that Tim Walz is more articulate than somebody else, but he is more articulate than Janet Mills. She will just look horrible up there, and I can't get the popcorn ready fast enough. I mean, I'd love to see it.
I will add Nancy Mace, extremely talented, a very talented woman, very talented member of Congress.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to read into that exactly.
She's tremendous. She's a tremendous asset. I just think she brings a lot to the body.
I don't disagree with what Steve is saying either. No, I don't disagree.
But yeah, I'm not really a fan of the oversight hearings though, because they're all mugging for Fox clips. Rather, it's more heat than light. But it is fun to see Tim Walz embarrassed there. But I think that his bigger problem is going to be evading criminal culpability rather than, embarrassing Fox News clips. I mean, the most embarrassing clips of him, honestly, are the ones where he's flamboyantly taking the stage during his brief 2024 vice presidential campaign. It doesn't get much more embarrassing than that. But if he, like Attorney General Keith Ellison, has culpability in this and was turning a blind eye in return for paybacks, that's going to be a huge problem for him. And I think that the same goes for Governor Mills. We know that this was a political pay-to-play operation here in the state of Maine. The Mills administration gave no-bid contracts to Gateway Community Services, and Gateway Community Services helped register migrants to vote and harvested ballots through the Community Organizing Alliance, run by our friend Sophia Khalid and her brother Muhammad Khalid. This was a pay-to-play operation, and the question is, how much did Governor Mills know about it? We know that she is personally acquainted with Abdullahi Ali and a whole bunch of other characters from Gateway Community Services. She appointed Tarlan Ahmadov to run her Office of New Americans, another Gateway associate. So she's close with these people, and there was a pay-to-play scheme using federal COVID money provided by the Biden administration to help engineer an election victory in 2022. It happened. It's in the documents.
Well, let's move then to Lewiston. By the way, Steve, I hope your attack on the flamboyance of Tim Walz won't preclude you from using jazz hands and leg kicks at the Cross Insurance Center on March 24th. There are expectations there. Hey, so John, you were in Lewiston last night. We did hear, we play the video from some shooting victims, including, I'm not sure, do you know who the name of this woman? This is not the woman, this woman was actually shot.
If I think you're going to go to it, I think the first speaker is Jennifer, I think. But I'm not sure which video you're going to. Yep.
Homeland Security, FBI, victims advocates all came to my house once I was out of the hospital and told me not to worry, that all of my bills would be covered. Until it didn't. I was strapped with a $93,000 hospital bill that my insurance company denied coverage. I went to advocates. I spoke with legislators. I was on the phone with the insurance company. No one had an answer for me. It was then, almost a year after the shooting, that I started looking at the distribution of funds from the MCF. I realized that each month received more than twice the amount that I had from the MCF. I wrote a letter to them expressing my concern. I asked for some kind of acknowledgement that they would acknowledge the oversight and work together on a remedy. But instead, I heard that they did nothing illegal, that they did a good job, and there's nothing to see here. I watched a few city council meetings where I was surprised at how the council members came across like they were the victims and we were attacking them. So odd to me. I understood the city council. The city was traumatized. We all were. Everyone was. Support was needed, but why nonprofits that mostly did not have anything to do with assisting the families and victims of this horrible event? So right the wrong, how do we proceed now? It's difficult when there has been no acknowledgement of wrongdoing. That would be the first step, but instead we look at the ongoing needs of the victim.
Okay, I think that's pretty good right there. And it doesn't seem like the city of Lewiston is righting the wrong, but some of these nonprofits now, John, the second one as you report, let's see, it is the root cellar has stepped forward and is trying to make this right.
You know, it was my words, disappointing night last night in Lewiston City Hall. Just a little background on what happened with the meeting. Once again, you know, Scott Harriman shows his side. He wasn't paying attention to people when shooting victims were up at the podium last night, and there were some very emotional people in the room last night, and Harriman's, you know, doodling again and not making eye contact. But, you know, the council now punted again for the second time, and now they want to bring in the Maine Resiliency Center to come in and make it a presentation in front of the city council. I see it as a delay tactic, and another, you know, like, hey, well, the Maine Resiliency Center says we can't do it, so we're not going to do it. I did talk to some people from the Resiliency Center. They seem like great people, and they really do care about the victims because it was created, you know, in response to the shooting. So I'm hopefully optimistic, but, you know, I still go to these meetings and shake my head. It's like, how can you people as elected officials not do everything in your power to help these nice people? Because not only are they shooting victims, Steve, you know, they're all nice human beings. They're, you know, the salt of the earth people. They're good people. And they're not asking for anything, you know, exuberant, you know. They're just asking to get their medical bills paid for. And, you know, just to see the apathy there. But as your point, Tom, the root cellar stepped up. They put out a press release today. They are returning the money. And it's not going back to the Maine Community Foundation. It's actually going back to Victims First. And if people still want to contribute money, they can also contribute money to Victims First. I think this is a very small first step to righting a very big wrong. I'm interested in what your guys' opinions of this are.
Well, I think it's the only instance of an organization that was involved in this that has done something official to recognize that the way this went down wasn't right. You know, I know some of the people who received money have privately admitted that they shouldn't have applied, or they think that it was wrong for them to have gotten the money, but they haven't returned it. Speaking specifically of Generational More and Amron Osmond, she's privately admitted that it was wrong, but hasn't taken any steps to you know, do something better with the money, return it to Victims First, or do what Root Cellar has done. So this is the first indication of somebody actually stepping up and trying to right the wrong. And I understand the Root Cellar's perspective if it's going around the community, hey, everybody, you know, apply for this grant opportunity. That's what nonprofits do, is try to take grant money and use it to affect their mission, advance what they're supposed to be doing. But in hindsight, when you look at the details of how this unfolded, the money should not have gone to NGOs that weren't going to explicitly help the victims and the survivors, because the victims' family members and the survivors were told multiple times that all of this money is going to benefit you. They were not told, we're going to give Ayman Osman $65,000 to, you know, teach Somali kids how to play soccer. You know, they were not told that. And none of the people who donated, you know, even after this NGO idea was concocted, had any inkling that that's where the money was going to be spent. And the Maine Community Foundation, as an $800 million organization, thinks that they have the funds to weather this storm. And I'll tell you, I've heard from a lot of people who've had experiences with the Maine Community Foundation, because I've been trying to understand their business model and how exactly they came to have all of that money. And an interesting story I heard from a source who shall remain anonymous was that this individual was looking for a place to bequeath their estate because they have no heirs. And they wanted to do something charitable, so they were talking to the Maine Community Foundation. So it turns out that that's one of the things they do, is if you get a big pile of money and no one to leave it behind to, you can give it to the Maine Community Foundation. And this person asked, if I've got instructions with how I want, my vast inheritance to be spent after I'm gone. What promises, what assurances do I have that you are going to respect my wishes? And the answer, after multiple times trying to get an answer, was basically none. So this is a foundation that collects money, and then it's just a wink and a nod and an honor system that they're going to do what's right with that money. But if you look through the list of the organizations that the Maine Community Foundation has given money to in recent years, there are some real head scratchers there. In fact, I'll actually pull up the Form 990 right now, and we can look through some of these grants in real time, because there's some funny ones on that list.
My biggest regret yesterday when I'm riding in an elevator with Decca Deluxe, don't be jealous, Steve. It's,
hold on, she's still in the United States? You might be breaking some news there.
Oh yeah, I spent time with Decca Deluxe yesterday, and her whole defense was, well, I didn't work for Gateway Communities that's under investigation. And I'm like, but yeah, you did, because that's why you're under the House investigation. But her whole defense was, well, I worked on the nonprofit side. You mean the part that took the Lewiston shooting funds? That's your defense? Like what's going on here? So
shit. That's like saying, I worked for Enron's nonprofit arm.
You've stepped on some breaking news. We have a Decca Deluxe handbag update.
Oh yeah.
The Decca Deluxe handbag adorned with Africa pin.
No.
Oh yeah, in the elevator, Steve. Oh yeah.
Hold on a second. How can Decca Deluxe afford a $780 handbag when she's making just a measly $22,000 as an employee of the charitable side of Gateway Community Foundation? This is shocking. It must have been a gift from someone. Maybe it was a gift from Abdullahi Ali, or maybe it was a gift from someone she met in recent years when she was traveling to Turkey, Azerbaijan, Rwanda, and some other tropical locations, which also raises questions as to how she was able to afford that travel. But again, maybe gifts, who knows? Maybe she's got some very generous family. But that is just so perfectly on character, and reminds me of the young man out in Minnesota who went out to defend his daycare wearing a pair of designer glasses that were like, $1,500 glasses.
Forgive me for this, because it might be another friend of ours from Africa, but did she receive housing assistance, Decca, or is that somebody else?
Yes, she lives in subsidized housing. Yes,
which does, okay, subsidized by the taxpayer.
What is even the point of being inside of this fraud scheme if you have to live in subsidized housing? Like, why are you spending your money on why spend your money on a handbag if you live in? I don't really even comprehend that. Like, how is living somewhere other than subsidized housing not the first place you're spending that money?
That's a great question. I mean, that's why Abdullahi Ali has that McMansion in Falmouth that he's trying to sell for $1 million. I mean, he was doing it right. If you check out the pictures of Abdullahi, that guy's rocking Versace suits. He's got alligator skin boots. He's driving nice luxury vehicles, and he's got that McMansion. And I think he also has what can fairly be called a plantation in Kenya. So I mean, he is actually doing the fraud game right, as opposed to Decca. You're right. This is a good point to raise, Seamus. Although I would say that one theory could be that you live this seemingly impoverished lifestyle because your rewards are laid up for the end of your career, and you think maybe that makes it harder for you to be discovered. But yeah, there seem to be an awful lot of really, really nice cars in the New Maynard community. Some really nice cars.
Behoove us to open a legit Bright Star Mercedes dealership.
True.
So
I honestly think that we should just start a home healthcare business. But here we go. Here's the Maine Community Services. This is their most recent Form 990 and their donations. So we've got it looks like we've got some Maine businesses here, but also we've got $161,000 to the Appalachian Mountain Club in Boston. Not really sure what exactly that club does. Let's see. Here, there's $100,000 to the Austin P State University Foundation in Clarksville, Tennessee. It's kind of weird. There's $12,000 to Avesta Housing Development, which, by the way, the largest subsidized housing, like taxpayer-funded subsidized housing entity in the state. I don't know why Maine Community Foundation feels like they need to give $12,000 to that organization.
Maybe Speaker Fecto asked him because he works for him.
Well, that's another good point. Here's a head scratcher. Bambino Basket Inc. in Essex, Massachusetts gets $10,000 from the Maine Community Foundation.
Down the street from me, the Appalachian Mountain Club is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering the protection, enjoyment, and understanding of the outdoors. What are the chances they are part of a block grant?
Look at this, $50,000 for Bark, which has only a P.O. box in Portland, Oregon.
I'm sure it's legit.
Basement Poetry in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, $7,000.
I would love to see some of the stuff coming out of Basement Poetry.
Oh, can we just say it, Steve, that these non-for-profits who are passing money back and forth are part of a just elaborate grift web?
All right, you have to look this one up. I actually did see this one. Beaver Institute Inc. in Southampton, Massachusetts, $160,000 from the Maine Community Foundation. Believe it or not, this is an actual institute about the preservation of the beaver. There is a whole institute dedicated to saving the beaver and protecting the beaver and studying the beaver. And Tom, no, it's not the dirty kind of beaver you're thinking about. It's actually the dam building, cute little tail slapping creature that we all know and love. The beaver indeed has its own institute, and the Maine Community Foundation is proud to donate $160,000 to the Beaver Institute. Not to be confused, by the way, with the Beavers Northwest in Shoreline, Washington, which got $75,000.
Wait a second. Like, wouldn't you want to save the Maine beaver?
Well, I think the Beaver Institute, they're not state specific. I think they do national beaver work.
Okay.
They're focused on all kinds of beaver. How about $20,000 to the Big Hole Watershed Committee in Divide, Montana? Like,
now, come on.
You know how much poverty there is in Maine? You know how many, with all the money that this organization has, all the problems and social ills that this state has, and they can give $20,000 to the Big Hole Watershed Committee. But remember, these guys can't come up with $60,000 or $70,000 to help Jennifer Zanka with her medical bills after she was shot 6 times in the Lewiston mass shooting, and they raised money in her name and then gave it away to Somali NGOs, but they can still come up with money for, the Birth Roots Center for Community Supported Parenting. That's actually a fair one. That's a good one to support. But what about the Blue Deer Center in Margaritaville, New York, which got $120,000 from the Maine Community Foundation? What is the Blue Deer Center doing?
The Beaver Institute has been around since 2017, and it says find your beaver professional, and they've got one in New Hampshire and Vermont and Southampton, Mass, but there are no beaver professionals in Maine currently.
Well, I beg to differ. I think there's plenty of beaver professionals. There's a lot of them in Augusta. What about the Bonefish and Tarpon Trust? $5,000. So somebody at the Maine Community Foundation's job was to go do some due diligence on the Bonefish and Tarpon Trust and decide that they were worthy of $5,000. I mean, it's like we're only in the B's right now.
I am knee deep in beaver right here. It says beavers can be most devastating impacts of climate change. Beaver biodiversity is mentioned as well.
Well, here, well, maybe that's the theme here is climate change. Well, here, Catholic Charities of Maine. So they've given $40,000 to the organization responsible for trafficking migrants and paroled illegal aliens into Maine.
That's
but
about
also
the amount that they were ordered to pay back to Medicaid in their most recent audit.
Oh, that's interesting. Another Medicaid scofflaw.
Yeah.
Here's $90,000 to the Center for Biological Diversity, Inc. in Tucson, Arizona. Here's a whopper, $350,000 for the Center for Climate Integrity. Now, how much do you want to bet that this address, 51 Connecticut Avenue Northwest, is an office building filled with Democrat NGOs?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, actually, you know what? It's even better. It's a UPS store. So it's actually just a totally fake organization.
Oh, that's
they've got a website exposing big oil's lies and demanding accountability. So I wonder if this is one of those anti-fossil fuel groups that's propped up by Russia and China and the Maine Community Foundation. But
so,
yeah,
Steve, the Maine Community Foundation obviously is looking to offload cash, right? And do they get recouped for all of this? Like, why are they dumping it anywhere?
Well, so this is the model. They've got a huge bucket of money. They manage it as an investment fund. Curiously, a lot of it appears to be offshores in the Caribbean. Make of that what you will. And the interest generated on that fund is then redistributed for charitable purposes. So that's what they do. They're not distributing their nut. They're distributing the interest they make on their nut.
And is that because
by the way, $10,000 to the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation in Tampa, Florida.
And are they getting rid of the interest because they have to because of their tax status?
No, because that's their reason d'etre. That's their purpose of existing.
Okay.
Their whole idea is that they are the charity of charities. So they're going to bring their expertise, the same kind of expertise that they brought to bear so wisely and prudently distributing the Lewiston shooting fund, they'll bring to anybody. So if you are feeling like you want to charitably give away money, but you don't have the time to yourself do the due diligence on places like the Beaver Institute, you can outsource that to the Maine Community Foundation, and they'll do for you what they did for the Lewiston shooting fund.
And how many? It's a different. It's not the same steering community for all of these, is it?
No. That steering committee was formed just for the Lewiston shooting fund. I think they have a full-time staff of. They've got like hundreds of people. They're bigger. Their staff is at least twice as big as the staff of the Maine Monitor. This is an interesting one. $167,000 for Defend Our Health in Portland, Maine. I've never heard of this organization. I'm interested to see what.
Okay, I'll swing by.
It's on 565 Congress Street in Portland.
Oh, it's on my way home. I'll swing by.
They want to. It looks like they're all about getting toxic chemicals out of people's food. So I'm sure they're big allies of RFK.
How about we get the needles off the street in Portland?
Well, we gotta focus on the food first. Then maybe we'll work on the needles. Oh, here's a good one. Earth Justice. $400,000 to Earth Justice, which has only a P.O. box in San Francisco. Earth Justice. Wow. I don't know what Earth Justice does, but I'm sure that it's very important. I mean, the entire Form 990 goes on like this for every year. And by the way, full disclosure, I did find that at one point the Maine the Maine Community Foundation, they made one very good donation, and that was to the Maine Policy Institute for $50,000 several years ago, which of course is the parent organization or partner organization of the Maine Wire. So I don't want to be saying, oh, I don't know. I don't know how much due diligence the Mills administration did before they decided that this was going to be the charity of record. But the list just goes on and on of all, maybe I'm cynical, but I would think that something like the Maine Community Foundation could give money to just people in Maine.
It's amazing.
Would make sense.
Amazing. Wow, that is amazing. What a grift. Oh, I've wasted my life. We were going to get to the reaction nationally of Maine politics since polling has come out recently. And a lot of people are excited about Graham Plattner. Some of the Trump derangement people are saying maybe it's not a bad thing. Guys like Graham Plattner are the way that you bring working class people back into the Democratic Party, blue collar people back in the Democratic Party. They think that Tim Miller, Steve, who I used to know when he wasn't insane, Tim Miller is excited about Graham Plattner. He said that's going to bring blue collar people back into the fold in Maine. Is he right?
Is Tim Miller was Jeb Bush's communications guy, right?
That's right.
Yeah, Jeb broke him. Jeb broke him. He's never been the same since. I think that he got that job with Jeb, and he actually envisioned that he was going to be standing behind the podium doing Washington press corps briefings. He thought he'd punched his ticket, and then Jeb just.
Howie in New Hampshire in 2016 when Tim Miller was walking around and he comported himself like an adult. He wasn't having a nervous breakdown. He is just in shambles these days.
Total crash out. Just a very, very sweaty guy conforming his opinion to whatever the Lincoln Project wants. Definitely has seized. He's found his lane as like the guy who can be called a Republican.
Yes.
And is going to. Well, as a Republican, I criticize all the things the Republicans do. He's gone after that strange new respect that Howie used to talk about. There's a market for it. The Lincoln Project guys are all super rich. There's a lot of money to be made conning gullible liberals out of their money. And that's the path he's chosen. So more power to him.
Seamus, are you surprised that national Republicans, anti-Trump Republicans, would rather see Graham Plattner win than Susan Collins?
To some extent, actually, yes, because Collins has never been one of the staunch Trump supporters. Like usually like the Lincoln Project type people are in favor of a lot of the more like neocon opinions that generally never Trumpers in the past have been in favor of. And so it's strange to me that they're alighting now on Graham Plattner. I don't know why that is. I maybe they just really think it'll help the grift keep going. I don't know. I do think
I think they've just been paid. It's just part of the new shtick. It's pure partisan. Embrace the Democrat. Get a consulting fee. The same thing goes for Mark Elias. Do we think that Mark Elias would have had Shenna Bellows on his podcast if she wasn't paying him, a $12,000 retainer? No. The model is you say really nasty things about Trump, you get a big following on social media, and then people pay you to say things. And that's how these digital media firms think that they're influencing political narratives. They're trying to create the narrative that Graham Plattner might be a Democrat and he might be progressive, but he's the gruff, masculine, working guy that Trump voters can get behind. That's what they're trying to go for. But I don't think it's going to work for him.
Yeah, I remember one of the guys who ran the Romney campaign the first time around. So that would have been 2012, I guess, or was it, or maybe it was 04? I forgot. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
After he lost, we said, "So how you feeling?" And he said, "I won't give his name, but you probably know who it is." He says, "I made my fortune." It's like, okay.
Well, I will say though that on the other side of the ticket, you know, Senator Collins' campaign team, they need to step it up. I don't think that they're showing they don't appear to understand the gravity of the challenge that they're up against. I think Graham Plattner will win the primary, and I think he's going to be a more formidable opponent than Senator Collins has faced in the past. You know, Sarah Gideon raised a lot of money. Bizarrely, she's still sitting on like $4 or $5 million in a campaign account, which is one of these weird mysteries of Maine politics. But Plattner's his understanding, or I guess the people who plucked Graham Plattner out of an aquaculture commercial and then gave him all of his ideas and his politics and created his fake oyster business to try to run him as a Senate candidate. They have a good, slick operation. The video is good. He's crowd surfing with Dropkick Murphys. As a candidate, he's good. He's got the riz. I'm worried that Plattner's got so much riz, he's going to mog the Collins. So he's got to they've got to step it up. They've got to have embrace new digital media if they want to be competitive in this race. And just like looking at one of the Collins Twitter accounts, the last post was from March 2nd, and the Susan Collins store is just shirts that say Maine on them. I think our shirts are much better. People should go to mainwiremerch.com and check out our Graham Plattner shirts. I think those are a lot more fun. But if the Collins people don't embrace new media a little bit more, they could be headed for trouble. And self-interestedly, I want more fun online. I want Senator Collins to get a little feisty on Twitter and start clapping back. I want to see some fireworks. We've just now started to see a little fighting between Janet Mills and Graham Plattner. I do wonder if there'll even be a debate between those two candidates. But I appreciate some good internet slap fights between candidates.
Yeah, Ryan on the chat says that he's going to hand Susan Collins another W and a silver platter. John, you've talked about her constituent services. Is that all it takes?
Well, I maybe I'm in the minority. You know who the most popular person at Bath Iron Works is? Steve Robinson. When I went to Bath Iron Works, if I had $1 for everybody who said I love the Maine Wire, I love Steve Robinson, I wouldn't have to work another day in my life. So that's working class people at Bath Iron Works. That's
the blogger, Steve Robinson.
Yeah, the blogger Steve Robinson. The bad actor. Yeah,
I don't know how much.
He was the most popular guy there. And there's how many thousands of people work at Bath Iron Works, and every one of them came up to me and said the Maine Wire is great and Steve is great and you guys are doing great work and so that's working class people. So if they're paying attention to the Maine Wire, maybe the Democrats.
But how much does that translate to enthusiasm for Collins? I'm not. It seems like she's not the easiest candidate to get enthusiastic about. She announced her candidacy with
better than a Nazi, right?
Well, yeah, of course. I'm not saying that I would prefer Plattner. I'm just saying that I don't think that enthusiasm for Steve translates to people who are necessarily really going to be enthusiastic about going out to vote for Suzanne Collins.
Steve endorsed?
Seriously not. And, I haven't endorsed any political candidates, nor will I or would I ever in a personal capacity, because I think endorsements are kind of stupid. And there's a lot that I disagree with Senator Collins about, but I do think that she has the right position and has had the right position on Chinese organized crime in the state, and she's the only statewide politician who's actually taking it seriously and whose efforts have made a material difference in our state's efforts to combat that problem. So as somebody who has been reporting on that for a long time, I'm grateful to her for her efforts there, and for giving us an interview for the Robinson Report, MWTV TV for the debate. But I think that she, the video of opening up the shoebox, it's like, that might have been cool in like 2006. There's a digital media, a new media strategy that she needs to embrace if she wants to capture the same kind of enthusiasm that people have for Graham Plattner. She should do a ride along with the Lewiston police. Do a ride along with the DEA. Do a ride along with the Maine Wire. If Senator Collins wants to go knock on some doors of some Chinese marijuana grows and meet her Cantonese-speaking constituents, I'm more than happy to take her along on a ride. But there's the campaigning has changed significantly, I think, in the last 6 to 12 years. And if that's reality isn't recognized, then it'll be a very, very close race. There's going to be a huge amount of money spent in this state. And already the anti-Collins forces are the biggest spenders in the entire state right now.
You know what? Maybe he'll have Plattner will have Jasmine Crockett come up and speak for him.
Gosh.
I wouldn't be
He's
surprised.
Gonna have to come up with a specific accent for Beth Ironworks. I want to hear Jasmine Crockett's Maine accent. Actually, that would be amazing.
I would pay for that.
That would be great.
I would pay to hear Jasmine Crockett's attempting the New England mid-coast accent. There's something about not just Jasmine, but even Hillary. There's something about politicians who feel like they have to adopt the accent of whatever locality they're in. I would pay to hear. Yeah, it really is.
It's so common with Democrat politicians. They're always doing this, and it always comes off terribly.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a report that I haven't published yet. I ran some of the numbers on political spending. In outside money, one of the largest donations was the failed effort to do the marijuana referendum. That had $2 million, but there's a huge Senate group that's spending a ton of money. So the Senate Democratic Campaign Committee has already spent $300,000. Oh no, sorry, that's at the state level. I'm misreading my report. U.S. Senate race. As of the most recent FEC filings, Susan Collins has raised $7.3 million. And spent 1.9. She's got 8 million on hand. Janet Mills has raised 2.7 million and has 1.3 million cash on hand. But there are some real big groups. One of them called Win Senate, and one of them called Unrig Our Economy. Win Senate has already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, as has Unrig Our Economy. So great news for the TV stations and the radio stations that are going to be getting that cash infusion. But there's going to be huge amounts, tens of millions, if not, hundreds of millions of dollars will be spent against Susan Collins. So if she's not embracing, new media, digital media, if her team isn't working on that, then it's gonna be a tough one. Elections these days can't be won just by buying 30-minute 30-second ad spots on WABI or WAGM.
And control of the Senate this year could very well mean the difference between, impeachment's a given if they've got the House, but control of the Senate means removal, possibly, which of course the left would like nothing more. All right, we are all through with MWTV TV overtime here. Steve Robinson is the editor-in-chief of the Robinson Report. Seamus Othot is a great reporter for us. Same with John Featherston. You can see him out there. He's in Portland right now. You're bopping from Portland to Lewiston and to all these thriving businesses where just everybody's out getting coffee. I am Tom Shattuck. been great to talk to you as usual. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m.